And welcome to the By Reason of Insanity podcast. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Devin.
What's up, brother?
Not much here. We're season 1, episode 1 of the By Reason of Insanity podcast. We're honored and blessed to be here. Excited to start this venture with you guys, our audience. And Jeremy, you want to tell them a little bit about what we're doing and how we met?
Yeah, sure. So Devin and I have known each other for just going on about 2 years now. When me and my family moved to the neighborhood, had a little situation at night where we inadvertently met each other.
Yep.
And it's a story in and of itself. We can go into that at some other time. But yeah, we ended up spending 2-3 hours, 4 hours talking in the middle of the night, out in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And everything was taken care of. We went our separate ways, and then the next day we ran into each other again. And we ended up standing there right by his car for like another hour and a half talking. And we've just become better friends every day, I think, since that time.
Yeah, and we get to work in the same office because Jeremy has graciously let me take over some of his office space. So,
brother, you have earned every bit of the office space you are using.
I appreciate that. So, yeah, basically from that, we developed a friendship and really started having these conversations, and they often started upon our disagreements.
Yeah, almost every single one was over something that one or the other couldn't kind of accept.
Whether it be a contemporary issue that we're dealing with right now or more philosophic-based things.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had a debate about fear one time, whether fear is innate or learned, and neither of us agreed. So we sat there for
hour and a half,
better part of an hour, and we just kind of went down this rabbit hole where we started at fear, and then we kind of had this offshoots, and we thought, I'd really like to go back and hear that, or both of us would be interested in hearing someone talk about that, or hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to have been a fly on the wall for that conversation and to be able to hear it from the outside.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm like, especially deep or, just like I'm God's gift to thought or anything like that. But replaying that conversation in my mind, it was just like, man, that was unexpected, one.
Yeah.
And two, it was just incredibly deep. And the fact that we both, I think, innately realized right then that, man, we're not the only ones that feel this way or think this way.
No, right. And I think we both realized that, at least in our own lives, and I expect other people will resonate with this, that everything's so surface level now in our interactions with everyone. And we wanted to create a space and set aside time so that we could have conversations like this. And if we can have an audience, if God allows that, we'll be blessed with that. And we'd be happy to have you guys join and listen to us.
Oh, we would absolutely love to have the audience. That's kind of a side to everything we're doing. We have these conversations regularly already.
Yeah.
They're off the cuff. They're spontaneous. We may have an idea of something we want to talk to, and we never talk about, but we never really end up there. We always end up in a bunch of different offshoots. And again, this is not scripted. We're literally flying by the seat of our pants. And, for good or for bad, we have agreed that we're going to do our very best to try to be as non-confrontational, I suppose would be the right word, as possible.
Yeah, and sensitive to different political beliefs. And
correct.
And
try to be as, as decent as we can.
People.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you can, for our visual viewers, you can definitely see there's a generational gap between us.
Hey, yeah, my shirt says it all. This kind of, gives you an idea of the era I'm from.
Yeah, he's got cassette tapes and VCR tapes on
Yeah,
his
the
shirt.
whole meme with the pencil and a cassette tape. Yeah,
Is that an 8-track too? Or that's a floppy disk?
that's a floppy disk,
Yeah.
a 5 1/4-inch
Yeah,
floppy, man.
yeah.
My first computer was a Commodore VIC-20.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm dating myself a little bit. I remember whenever the internet was a 300 baud modem with a literally with a phone that you put in a cradle, and if you picked up the phone in the house anywhere else, it sounded like a fax machine. Yeah, absolutely. So,
I was on the tail end of that. So
yeah, so I'm a little I'm dating myself a little bit, but generationally speaking, I mean, I think the World Wide Web puts me in Generation X because I was born in 1974.
yeah, and I would be I'm a millennial.
You're, I think, right
I'm
on
on
the
the tail
cusp of millennial / whatever's after what Z is that
Gen
after?
Z,
I think.
yeah, I'm on the end, the last year of millennial.
Yeah, so we definitely have some age disparity between us, and we have different ways. We may have some similar backgrounds in some areas, but we definitely see the world from our age perspectives.
Yeah,
and I think it goes to we're trying to deal with a situation where him and I were able to talk, and we're able to kind of find common ground, even on things that we don't agree with.
right.
And I know I look around, and all I see is division. All I see is people that should be able to, regardless of the age or differences in their backgrounds, whatever the case may be, should be able to talk and help, listen to what the other person has to say, but be able to come to a point where they can say, okay, maybe I don't necessarily agree, but it doesn't change the fact that, look, you're my brother or you're my sister, and I love you regardless of any differing opinions that we have.
Right. Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think the disparity between our age is just one of them because, people of my generation and even younger would turn to someone of your age or your parents' age and say, you're boomers, you're this. And then the people of that age group would turn to them and say, oh, you're a millennial, you're a Gen Z, or
I see, the whole meme on social media. And I mean, we're surrounded by it. Whether you like social media or not, that's not the debate. But there's this meme on social media about kind of like my generation that they say that, we're the crazies that drank out of water hoses and, be home when the street light comes on. We grew up in an era where we were not connected to the internet. We didn't have 24/7 access to information.
Yeah.
We learned information and we learned new things and new skills through direct communication.
Yeah.
And, today's generation, I mean, they're blessed. They're blessed beyond measure and don't even realize it sometimes, I think.
Well, I think it does have consequences. It doesn't come without, a change. But I think you're telling me this afternoon about the story where you were on TikTok. Do you want to talk about that?
So, yeah, I'm guilty, just like everybody else is, of spending probably way too much time in social media.
Yeah.
And I try sometimes to curb myself from it just because I feel like, man, some of this crap is really unhealthy. But at the same time, I can't believe, I spend a lot of time, last night, I spent 2-3 hours stuck in TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
But I was kind of pleasantly surprised because, man, I was seeing a lot of stuff I agreed with. I'm like, wow, look at this. Wow, this one's kind of cool. And it seemed like, man, maybe we're not as divided after all as I thought, because I'm seeing a lot of stuff that I agree on. But then, when I turn on mainstream media or I turn on any of these other things, all I see is, hate, bicker, fight. We don't agree. This is right. This is wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. And it's like, wait a minute, but what's going on here?
Yeah. I think that social media, and I told you this earlier about the algorithms, how they decide what your basically, the longer you spend on a certain kind of video, and based on other information they've gathered on you, they determine your interests. And sometimes even like when you first download TikTok, you can select your interests. And so,
Which I did not do, actually.
okay, yeah. So based on the time you spent on videos and the videos that you liked, it determined your interests.
Okay, now I have an interesting question about that. Now the whole like thing.
Mm-hmm.
What if you're someone like me? Now, yes, I spend a lot of time watching videos, and I tend not to swipe through them. I kind of just watch them. Whatever pops up, I tend to watch them, and I don't like anything.
Yeah.
I literally, there might be 2 videos in 500 hours of TikTok that I've watched that I actually liked.
It just depends on how much time you spend watching it.
Okay.
And whether it's something you swipe by right away, and they're all coded into categories. But basically
okay, I guess I can see where you're coming. I'm thinking about like some of the things I do. I don't try not to swipe, but there are occasionally things like something that'll come up that just seems like, wow, that's really divisive.
Yeah.
Where the first words out of someone's mouth are something very divisive, and it's just like, I don't want to hear this.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I go through it, and yeah. So I guess the whole algorithm thing, man, you explained that to me, and it was just like, are you serious?
Yeah.
I mean,
and
is
so
it really that?
part of it's good and bad because there's this human tendency that we have. It's called, well, it's confirmation bias, basically, is what it's called.
Okay.
And that's when we seek out information that confirm our own beliefs or confirms our own beliefs.
And it seems to me, and like we were talking about this earlier, it seems to me that sadly the social media, and I mean, again, it's everywhere. It seems like that's all that's being pushed instead of them saying, hey, you know what? Feeding, I mean, let's look at this from a whole other standpoint, I guess. So let's say you have a problem with overeating, okay, or gambling for that matter, whatever.
Yeah. Any vice
Okay.
or whatever.
And, you could find 1,000,001 habits, things that are not necessarily good for you. But, if they call it enabling, like, so let's say we'll use gambling for an example. Okay, so, let's say I have a gambling problem and all I see nonstop is ads for gambling and, hey, here's this free bonus and here's that free bonus and here's this, that, and the other thing. It's like, okay, I recognize it as a problem, but God, if I'm never away from it,
yeah.
I mean, how do I heal and get away from that kind of damage that's creating?
And that's the problem with it, really. I think, I mean, social media is a powerful, powerful tool for communication. I mean, we're sitting here recording an episode of our podcast.
True.
That we're going to put out on social media for all you guys, to reach all you guys. And that's the good side of it. But the bad side, or the side that is kind of dangerous in a sense, is that all you're seeing is things that confirm your beliefs that they already know, that these algorithms already know. And so you don't get exposed to differing viewpoints, and your viewpoints get reinforced and even stronger. And in a sense, it's good to have stable and strong views. That's not a bad thing.
Right.
But you also have to be able to accept and be able to, or be willing to engage with other people and be
people of differing opinions.
Yeah, and also having access and considering the information that differs from your viewpoint, no matter what it is,
right.
So that you can make an informed decision. That's how you make informed decisions. You weigh both sides. But
Correct.
if you're only getting one side all the time,
you're only getting the side that you want to hear because, well, the old adage, the truth hurts.
Yeah.
And just because I believe it doesn't necessarily make it true.
And this happens on both sides of the political spectrum with you're only exposed to what you want to be exposed to, and you don't even get to consider the other side because it's not right in front of you all the time. And so that's where this division is further exacerbated because of things like that. But
wow. See, now that's, to me, it's crazy because, like I said, we have at our disposal, I mean, in this generation, like I said, especially, they have just everything. like the access to knowledge, the access to things in like my childhood that I could have only dreamed about. I mean, again, we're talking about the Atari, the Atari age. That's, where I came from. We did not have world news, world politics, cultural news, cultural politics. We didn't have all these different things that we can immerse ourselves in to learn.
Yeah.
But yet we're either personally willingly choosing, or we're being
guided,
unwillingly fed damaging self-image.
Yeah. In some cases, yeah.
Well, I mean, the reason I say damaging self-image is like, because this, if I only believe that if all I ever see is what I have been taught, let's say, for example, or what I believe the world to be.
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly. I'm not saying that what I believe is right or, one way or the other, but if it's all I'm ever exposed to, that's all I ever see in, 14 hours of online interaction, then because I'm not being given anything else.
But it feeds into the human nature, because even in personal interactions, like you said, your generation was more interpersonal, you would make friends that kind of have your same beliefs. I mean, people like people that are like them.
Well, no, see here, I'll give you a story here real quick. Personal, one of my best friends, I mean, God rest his soul, he passed away a couple of years ago, unfortunately, suicide, which is super sad. He served the country, didn't get the help he needed when he got out. So, I mean, that's a sad story all on its own. But my first interactions with him, we literally got into a fist fight because we completely despised each other. And in my generation, generally, if you got into a fight with someone, generally that ended up being someone, if you could get past the issue as to why you were fighting, that became someone you were very close to because you had respect for that individual because they stood up for what they believed in.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for the first several interactions between us were literally bloody fistfights. That of course over time turned into
a mutual
respect and understanding. Whether we agreed on everything or not was not the case because we didn't. There was things that were of a personal nature in his life that I absolutely abhorred.
Yeah, see, that's where, it's okay to have strongly held beliefs. But at the end of the day, you have to be willing to come to the table and accept that people are going to have differing viewpoints. People are different in their beliefs and in their lived experiences and then in the way they act and react and think. So it's a good thing. It's what makes us human. This idea that everyone has to think the same and act the same is just a scary utopian nonsense. It's just not how we are. I mean, obviously there's a baseline of certain human decency and respect that everyone deserves.
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, obviously there's a myriad of things that we should never as humans entertain, period.
Yeah. But as long as those beliefs don't affect that kind of thing,
right?
People should be allowed to have those beliefs.
Well, and I absolutely completely agree with the philosophy as a whole of, hey, look, this is me, I'm me, you're you. Live your life kind of the way you want to, just don't infringe on mine.
Yes.
Let me live the way I want to live. I'm going to let you live the way you want to live. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, hey, you're wrong. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, well, you should do it my way because, hey, what works for me may not work for you.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And, but back to the whole social media thing. If people are being exposed to only what they want to hear, how do we get to a point where people are able to communicate again and hear things that they don't want to, but be able to at least acknowledge it? Not saying that they have to accept it.
Right.
But be able to say, okay, you know what? I hear where you're coming from. I don't agree, but let me tell you how I feel about this.
Well, I think the other problem that there is in this kind of arena that we're talking about in the social media compared to what you were raised in and what I was, in contrast to what I was raised in, because I was in the social media age, and I'm sure you've heard the term keyboard warriors.
Oh, well, of course.
Yes. So I think, for anyone that doesn't know, it's basically someone online that just types nasty comments and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're invariably going to get that online, because online is
anonymity.
Yes, there's anonymity, and then there's a barrier between you and that other person.
Oh, yeah, because I'm going to tell you, I've had people say things to me online that if they were in my face, they would not have the heart to say.
Yeah, and it takes away that humanity of that interaction, and people feel, I don't know how to say it. It's like it puts a spacer in between the two people, so much so that I think we forget that there's
depersonalization.
Yes, depersonalizes it, and I think that sometimes we forget that there's another person on the end of that text on a screen.
Okay, so this is a dumb question, and maybe not. I mean, there other people have to wonder this, because I know I'm not the only person in the world that thinks this. How did we get here? Dude, how did we get to where we're at now, where things are just so bad? Like, so there's just division isn't even really the right word, I think, sometimes. There's such a absolute rift in society as a whole.
Yeah.
How did we get so far to, and I'm not going to use political terms, but how did we get to so far to the right and left of any kind of like middle ground?
Yeah. I don't know. We're just two people sitting here debating this, but if you're listening or watching on a platform that allows comments, we'd love to hear your feedback as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I don't think either of us are rocket scientists, and we don't have all the answers. This is us spitballing. This is us just being friends. I mean, this is us trying to bounce ideas, and
but we also want to start conversations, and we want to, like I said, facilitate space for this. So if you're viewing and this is sparking some kind of thoughts in your mind, by all means, feel free to share them.
Absolutely. You know, and I'm going to be very honest, and I'm going to say this, and it's not something we've discussed. I mean, this is all brand new to us. I would ask for people to have the same kind of, courtesy that we're having, and not being deliberately disrespectful or rude. But we're not going to delete your comments if you decide that you have something negative or disparaging to say. I believe personally, we live in a world where we should be free to say what we feel. I mean, are there things that maybe we shouldn't, because it's conscienceless and it's just downright wrong and mean to do that? Sure. But look, we're not going to limit anyone's right to speak their mind.
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely. Your ideas, your thoughts.
So I guess, what do we think how we got here? I think it's that depersonalization, honestly, and how much time we spend online versus how much time we spend interacting with each other. Yeah. I mean, if you guys have an iPhone, I'm sure, I don't know if Android has an equivalent, but if you have an iPhone, go into screen time and see how much time you spend on.
Yeah, I don't even know where that's at.
On your phone. It's just outrageous.
Yeah, I don't even know where that's at.
Even myself, no one, and Jeremy and I had this conversation. It's one we'll probably have in the future with you guys listening. It's this idea, I think we need a whole episode for it, honestly. It's this idea that no one takes the time to think for themselves, or not necessarily that, but no one takes the time to think about thinking, is the way I think I put it.
Yeah, that's exactly like it.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
That?
Thinking about thinking. Okay, that's it sounds really strange when you hear it. Let
me preface that too.
Yeah, go ahead.
So from a young age, we are taught, I'm sure everyone listening or watching knows the saying, think before you speak, or think before you act.
Yep.
But do we think before we think?
Yeah. Or do we think about the things that we think about?
Yeah, exactly.
Go deeper into it than just the surface of what the final product is.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, contrary to popular belief, thoughts are much deeper. They have a root
Yes.
that the entire thing stems and blossoms from, that we get the final product. And I think that's some people refer to it as doing deep dives.
Yeah. And it's the idea that we're responsible for our actions and we're responsible for what we say. But why can't we be responsible and held accountable for what we think, or hold ourselves accountable for what we think?
And I think if people actually slowed down for just a second and thought about, because thinking leads to other things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if the thought comes up that, hey, well, maybe, you know what, I think I'm going to go ahead and do this thing. Well, that's the first step in actually doing something, right, wrong, or otherwise. Okay, let's just make this extreme and say, oh, you know what, I could use a couple extra bucks. Let me rob this person. I need some money, so I'm gonna go ahead and rob this person. Starts with a thought.
Yes.
That thought has a lot of parts that got you to that point, and what led up to that final thought of, I think I should do this. Well, why? What is the thought process leading up to it? Because there's a big one. There has to be a very real process leading up to that final thought and decision.
Yeah.
But the thinking is just the first step.
But it doesn't even have to be something as extreme as that.
No, but I wanted to take it completely to,
to the extreme.
Yeah.
It's every day. We make thousands of decisions, whether you realize it or not. The decision to wake up, get out of bed, the decision to make your bed or not, the decision of whether you're...
Okay, decision to wake up. I can see that if I set an alarm, but what if not? What if I don't set an alarm? I didn't decide. I just wake up when I wake up.
Yeah, but you made the decision not to set the alarm as the alarm goes off. So the summation would be really that I feel that we should take more time to be with ourselves, be introspective, just spend time with yourself, take care of yourself. We need to take care of ourselves.
Positive self-talk.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny. So my oldest had a bowling match the other day. Okay. And I've seen how hard he gets on himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I've struggled to try to understand it. And the only thing I could think to tell him was, dude, don't be so hard on yourself. Positive. Talk positively to yourself.
Yeah.
Positive self-talk.
I had the worst self-talk for the longest time. And sometimes I catch myself still doing it. I mean, it's a reality.
Well, yeah, and I mean...
It's something that if you were caught in, and I think this speaks to the larger aspect of that one of the causes to the division we're talking about,
right,
is this loss of sense of self or the lack of concentration on ourselves,
and not selfishness, but
exactly.
but in self-care.
Yes,
and I think we've started in a lot of realities, and it's happened for a lot. I think more now than ever is we've really started depersonalizing everything.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I mean, we've depersonalized and we've lost those human connections. I think we've become way more aggressive in relation to how we talk
to one another.
No, to ourselves. How the negativity we feed ourselves.
Well, yeah, and that shows outwardly in the comments you see online and in the interactions we have with one another nowadays. We don't treat it. How are we going to treat others well when we don't even treat ourselves well?
And I've heard different people say, like they say love, like in a marriage or a relationship, they say it's a choice.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. Every morning, yes, when you're young and in love, I'm so in love, and it's that feeling and whatever else. But then when you've been with someone for a while and you don't have that butterfly feeling anymore. In the morning, you have to make a conscious choice getting out of bed. It's like, I'm going to choose to love this person in spite of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to get to a point where we are able to look at a mirror when we go to brush our teeth or shave or whatever the case may be, that it can say, I'm going to love myself in spite of all this other stuff.
Yeah.
In spite of all the negative talk, in spite of all the negativity that we're constantly ingesting, that we're going to, say, you know what? I don't care. I love me for me. And yeah, am I perfect? No. Do I make mistakes? Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're humans. We're all imperfect. By the grace of God, at least I have that.
Well, I think I think the overall tone is somewhat pessimistic, but I think it's also realistic in our assessment of what's going on today in the world. I think we could. I'm the kind of guy that's like glass half full,
Right?
and
right.
So you do see so many good things happening in the world, and we're not saying that that's not the case. It's
Right.
just this. I felt like this was important to talk about. I'm glad we are talking about it because it's just so overwhelming for everyone, I think. And I'm speaking for myself at least.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I'm noticing it more and more, especially with my own kids. I said, I've got a family, I've got kids, and I see things. Maybe I don't necessarily see things through their eyes, but my perspective and what I see in relation to them, like I see just tons of anxiety. I see just like me, I'm a very outgoing person,
Can you move your mic back? I think you're probably blocking your face from.
Oh, yeah, I can just
pull the arm back a little bit too, like towards the wall.
I can try. How's that sound?
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry about all the noise that's going to make everyone. A little bit. A little better? Think I work?
Yeah.
All right. It might be. I don't know. But learning lessons. But yeah, I'm a very outgoing person.
There you go.
He.
Gotcha.
Okay. I'm a very outgoing. My train of thought's gone now, but no, I don't get overly conscious of things. I'm very outgoing. I can kind of deal with people on any level for the most part. But I'm to a point now in my life where the conflict and the divide, I mean, it makes me personally anxious. Like there's constantly this element of stress.
Or what if I say something wrong to this person that's counter to their beliefs and they freak out or don't like me anymore, or
right? I mean, and it's not that I want to be offensive or that I want to be, I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. I'm not trying to do anything, but it's like, it's like walking, I guess, like a tightrope of careful consideration.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, it stresses me out. It makes me so anxious.
It'll eat you up if you let it.
And, I know you had mentioned at one point, this is a while back when we were talking, where you're talking about social anxiety and, kind of that inability to, I don't know if it's fit in. I don't exactly understand
You're from the different generation. This is why we're happy we have these perspectives we're able to bring. And I like having different perspectives in my life. And so for someone that's hasn't been raised in this social media or this internet information age.
That'd be me.
Where everyone's got their head down in their phone. You don't make eye contact with anyone when you walk on the street. It's social anxiety is a very, very real thing. And it's something I struggle with I told you that and you thought I was crazy because.
Well, it's because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, I guess, the whole idea of social anxiety. I know I have anxiety and stress over, I think, different things.
No, I'm not saying that you thought I was actually crazy. I'm saying
no.
No. I'm saying that, well, yeah, you don't have that perspective exactly, but what am I trying to say here?
Okay, break down like your idea or your thought of what social anxiety is.
Yeah, so social anxiety is just like the feeling that either you're not fitting in a social situation, or that you're acting awkwardly, or people are judging you for this and that, and your mind just comes up with these little things, and it tells you, hey, you're doing this weird, or hey, you're doing that weird, or like this person's thinking this about you.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And that's kind of what a lot of people are struggling with now.
And I think it's a younger generation
It
that's
is.
really struggling with this because of the social norms that have been these new social norms of. I hate the term political correctness because it's not right. It's not the right terminology. I don't think it's, just everything has to be acceptable.
Not
And
even
you've
that.
got to mind every little thing that you say because you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
Not even that. It's just that we don't have the strong interpersonal skills that people of your age developed when they were growing up, because
Okay.
we haven't had as much interaction.
The face-to-face
yes.
communication, connected. Okay, and that makes sense to me. Because again, we kind of touched on this earlier. I think that, I was raised in that generation where we didn't have all of the stuff. So, we went out and we were always around people and we were always doing things with people and always making those connections.
Yeah.
But it's funny that, even with all of that, there was so much bad. I'm going to say this, and I mean this sincerely, and I think it affects, the younger generation just as much, especially where men are concerned. We were taught some bad things.
Yeah. You're taught not to cry, not to feel, not to.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think it's almost like an emotional stunting, if that makes sense,
Oh, yeah.
because like you can tell me how you feel, and I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, but I'm not gonna understand it. It's not something that I can rationalize because I don't. I spent my entire upbringing being told that it wasn't okay for a man to express emotion. It wasn't okay to to unburden yourself to others because, hey, that's weakness, one. And two, I learned early on that if people take you as weak or perceive you as weak, and if sharing your feelings, thoughts, and emotions with someone makes you weak, that they use it against you.
Yeah.
And it goes to this theme that I've been seeing trending lately. And it's kind of a meme. It's kind of not a meme. But I think it's healthy in some regards. We'll see how long it lasts. But, there are these women from all different walks of life. And, they're reaching out to men from all different walks of life. Every economic status, religious ideology, you name it. It's from every grouping throughout the world. And they're asking them, who do you talk to when things aren't going well, when you're having issues, when you're having stress, when you're having problems, who do you talk to? And it's almost a resounding across the board, no matter the social stature or strata that person's from.
Nobody.
No one. Absolutely no one. I heard one guy's like, we can call someone, we can talk to someone, like genuinely questioning. And this was a young generation person too. This wasn't someone my age. This was someone probably much closer to yours. Like,
Yeah.
Like we can talk to someone.
Oh, it's a systemic issue for sure. I mean, we're not, men particularly aren't taught to feel and reason through their emotions. And it goes this emotion and dealing with your emotions and the stigma towards talking and feeling your emotions isn't just towards men too, because when women feel emotions and express them, they're labeled crazy and whatever, other words.
Right. Well,
But
the other side of that is, and I mean, excuse me, in my own life, I mean, just speaking personally, in my own life, I have a very hard time relating to my wife because my wife, she'll say, hey, this is how I feel. And I'm like, okay, I can't. And in my own mind, I'm like, I want to understand. I want to have that connection to be able to understand why she feels what she feels and how that makes her feel. But somewhere between the words that I hear and the actual connection, I don't know what to do with it.
because
And yeah, I have no idea how to handle or react or.
well, how could you expect to know how to react to another's emotions when you haven't been taught and practiced responding to your own in a healthy way? It's sad. You're right. It is. And it's something I think that plays into this divide because we're not dealing with ourselves. And when you're not mentally healthy, I mean, let's be honest, it's a mental health issue.
It's a mental illness. It
It's
absolutely
a
is.
mental health issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so when you're not being in your best mind and processing your emotions in a healthy way, how could you interact in the world in a healthy way?
Right. Well, and you spend so much time frustrated and with everything pent up that, and unfortunately know that how this works, the longer you bottle something up, it has to come out sooner or later.
Yeah.
And I've not ever known it to come out in a good way. It's usually very self-destructive or relationally destructive. And it's just, it's absolutely heartbreaking to know that almost every, and I hate the generalization that I'm about to make, but it's just from everything I'm seeing, it seems very true, very apt, that almost every man that I meet in a certain age group or several age groups, spanning several generations actually, have absolutely no idea what to do with that part of themselves.
Yeah. And so I think it's really good that we're talking about it. And I'm sure our audience is going to relate.
I want to say this kind of to everyone, just because we want you involved in these conversations, and especially to the guys that might be watching, because we're talking about a guy thing right now and how hard we struggle with this. I want to say really clearly, regardless of the trends, there are always people somehow, some way, somewhere that you can reach out to if you need to. Don't continue to allow this to be a trend. We have the ability to reach outside of ourselves if we're willing to take that step. And it's very hard. I mean, opening yourself up,
what we're talking about is not easy.
No, there's nothing easy about this at all. I mean, I'm grateful that I have God, and I know that God is always there and listening and wants better for me, and that God can help me with those things, with my own interpersonal things and, giving me that self-love that I need. But having the trust and the companionship of other male role models, other men in your life that you can speak to in a manner that is, hey, I'm struggling with this right now. I don't know what to do. I need a helping hand. I need some help. And, I'm reaching out to you. I'm trusting you to be that sounding board.
And yeah, I agree as well. I mean, you're loved. That's the bottom line. I mean, everyone has people that love them. That's one of the basic needs everyone has, is a feeling or a need for love and a sense of belonging. And I mean, that's Maslow's hierarchy. It's in his basic hierarchy of needs.
Right.
And what I want to say is, I think right now, especially, this is important because of COVID, and I know we're all tired of hearing about it.
Yeah.
But there's no denying its impact on our life, and I think it's exacerbated a lot of these things that have been building up. And
without a doubt.
And we saw that in our experience. Jeremy and I got the pleasure of volunteering with an organization called Junior Achievement.
Oh man, that was a blessing.
It was.
Dude, that was an absolute blessing.
That just filled my heart with joy, honestly, to be able to connect with the kids like that and have an impact in their lives. But I think I got tenfold back what I gave.
Oh, dude, absolutely. So for anyone who doesn't know what JA is an organization that takes normal people like us, business professionals, whatever the case may be, entrepreneurs, regular, everyday people, nurses, name it, and they bring them into the school structure to work with and teach different courses to the classes.
Yeah.
You're basically kind of given your head, you get a packet of information that you can either use or not use, but you're kind of given your head to work with these kids, and
it's something.
Yeah.
So the reason I brought it up is because these kids have been impacted by COVID in such a way that Jeremy organized this group lesson, basically a group exercise, and it was the first time in 2 years the teacher told us that these kids had been able to get in a group and be with one another and collaborate. And she just could not rave enough about how big of an impact that's going to have and how badly it was needed. And I think that's what we're really talking about here is we need the interpersonal connection. We need the engagement. We need all of that stuff that we've especially been missing the last 2 years. And yeah, it's just so vitally important.
Yeah. And I think, something else, because we've talked about it kind of a few different times in different ways, but I think one of the things that I think we all need to work on kind of together, in and of ourselves and together, is honestly, at the end of the day, we really need to be very, very careful with our self-talk. We need to start loving on ourselves, and especially as guys. I mean, women, I think, generally tend to be pretty good for the most part.
No.
I don't know. I think most, not all.
Especially surrounding body image. Are you kidding?
Okay, body image. Okay, I'm going to agree with you. Women have a very horrible, but that's we're getting to a whole another topic.
They absolutely destroy themselves, and it just pains me.
But they're. I think a lot of women are far better emotionally connected
at processing it. Yeah.
Where, like me, I need to lose about 40 pounds, but at the end of the day, guess what? Don't really care. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about what the next person's going to think of me if they look at my body and be like, oh, dude, he's a fat ass. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I know the things that I tell myself, man, you didn't make enough money this week. Or, man, you don't have the time to get this done, this done, this done. You're not a good husband. You're not a good father because you didn't do this, and this.
Yeah. We're too hard on ourselves, yeah.
That's what beats me down. Instead of saying, you know what? Hey, you did A, B, C, D, and E. Good job, man.
Yeah, I think if you take anything out of this section of our talk is that positive affirmation is a powerful, powerful tool.
That, and don't be afraid to tell your friends or the people that you associate with that you consider your friends, the people you feel like you consider you can trust. Don't be afraid to say, yo, man.
Love you.
Love you. Good job. You know, that's amazing what you're doing. Or
sometimes that's all that people
give them that positive reinforcement too, especially, if it's someone you care about. Don't hesitate.
Yeah.
Because you don't know the impact that that's going to have on that person's life. Or what that they needed. Maybe that's something they needed to hear right then at that spot. And instead of letting your emotional self or lack of being able to express emotions get in the way, reach outside of yourself and be like, you know what, bro, I love you regardless. And, you know,
Yeah. So I think we really started the podcast at a big level, like a macro level, with the societal divide and everything.
Yeah.
But once we really took the time to talk through it, it's not a big problem. I mean, it is a big
well,
problem.
it's a massive
Right,
problem, but
but it's not an insolvable problem.
no. And I think it's absolutely, I think it's something that we can all work on and make it better.
Yeah. It's a problem that starts at the micro level that affects the macro level. And so if we could be individually the people that start to change that narrative, we're going to be in a lot better place.
Yeah. Have you, it almost applies right now, but it's so trite to say this. I've heard it said so many times, be the change you want to see.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do whenever you have a very poor self-image, but
yeah,
you know, or you're very hard emotionally on yourself. But you know what? I mean, I think that's a good lesson. We need to start being what we want to see in the world. You know, we want positivity around us, then we need to start being and treating ourselves positively.
Yeah.
And reinforcing ourselves with good, not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's, man.
Deep stuff.
Yeah, and you know, the the worst part about this is I don't think we've ever gone into any of our conversations ever thinking, yeah, this is going to be easy.
No.
It always ends up being way, way more real.
Yeah.
Than what I think we thought going into it.
Yeah, I think that's real conversations is what needs to happen more.
Yeah.
Just conversations like this, honest, open, thought-provoking, engaging.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? And there's nothing wrong with it. And I think the sooner people in general, just in general terms, start to say, you know what? It's okay to talk. You know, it's okay to communicate. It's okay to feel. It's okay to be vulnerable, I think, is where I'm really wanting to go. You know, and I think it's okay that we tell ourselves, especially as men, that those things are okay.
Yeah, I think that's a crucial step in bridging the divide that we've been talking about. And this definitely took an interesting turn, this conversation. I didn't expect it to get this personal and
me neither.
And where we're ending up right now, but I'm glad we did. I think it,
as am I, yeah.
It needs to be talked about more, and I'm glad, and I think it will be. I think we're reaching a point where this is finally becoming mainstream and getting accepted and getting pushed. So I'm glad to see that. So with the last few minutes that we have with our audience here, what do you think where do you think we're going next?
You know, I think we kind of covered some of the things. You know, we were talking about division and, you know, the damaging images and self-image and self-talk. And we even talked about some positive things, you know, to work on that. You know, the interpersonal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a big thing that we really need to kind of dive maybe a little deeper into, I don't know what your opinion on this is, but going from that, you know, inner level to an outward level, how do we start to bridge that gap outwardly and start trying to heal this division that there is, you know, societarily?
Yeah.
Does it just start, you know, it starts with us, but where do we take it from there?
I think it's like doing the stuff we talked about.
Right.
But also becoming more engaged in your community, doing volunteering, going over and saying hi to your neighbors.
Yeah.
Becoming interactive again with our at a human level. So, but I mean, the plan for this podcast is that we're going to talk about we're both going to talk about issues, but also
Yes.
get into, the minutia of things.
Oh,
You know,
dude,
there's
we've had several. I mean, there's been ones on religion. There's been ones on, well, you mentioned fear.
Yeah.
I mean, that one was fun. That one hurt my brain.
Yeah, there's been ones on like social norms.
So yes,
Diving deep into social norms.
And well, that's kind of how we came. I mean, briefly, I think we have a minute here. The name of the podcast, By Reason of Insanity, we were looking at, beside the fact that it's a legal term to determine whether someone's able to stand trial for a crime they committed. We were looking at the whole point of it was what is considered sane and insane in society, and how we've taken some things that were at one point in life considered normal and turned them into something that is now considered insanity, that is completely insane, and vice versa.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to look at the definition of insanity.
Yes.
And kind of pick that apart. Because, I mean, sanity is basically decided by the masses. But, I mean, if you've ever done any reading about, like, large group studies,
Right.
people will follow the masses even though it's entirely wrong.
Yes.
If
Well, dude, there's a reason they said if your friends jump off a bridge, are you going to?
Yeah. And it's like the whole thing, we can get into group think and all these other
that's
things.
kind of the point of this entire thing, this entire broadcast. Today kind of went, we had an original kind of thought and idea, and it kind of went away from that. And it happens a lot. We do that a lot when we have these conversations. They kind of go around the bend.
I think it was necessary.
But I do too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a lot of things that we want to talk with you guys about, and a lot of it is going to be very, what is the right word for this? Oh, some of it's going to be very thought-provoking.
Yeah.
And, some of it might just be clowning around, but the whole point is, at the end of the day, guys, we're trying to bring you into our world in the way that we interact, and just the relationship that we've built with a lot of these differences being incorporated into it. And, like I said at the very beginning of this, through it all, we may not agree 100% on something, but you know what? That's still my brother at the end of the day.
Ditto.
And it's okay to disagree. This is what it's all about, is being able to sit down, talk, and gain a better understanding. I would actually, encourage y'all, if you have comments, you have thoughts, things you'd like to hear us actually discuss.
That's true. If you guys have any recommendations for what we should discuss, we'd gladly take them.
The one thing I will say is be mindful, because we are trying to be mindful about how inflammatory things get. So be conscious of that. But yeah, I mean, we absolutely would like to hear what you guys have to say, your thoughts, your opinions. And if you have requests, by all means, let us know. We'd be happy to look into it and, talk about it, see where it goes.
Yeah, I guess the whole concept is just to have thought-provoking conversations. And
absolutely. And that's really what it comes down to. Like I said, this entire thing started with our mundane conversations just here on a day-to-day in the office, and that need for a human connection that turned into, somebody that I trust implicitly and I can talk to just about anything. So, that's how we got to where we're at, and we're going to keep doing it. Whether there's cameras on, whether there's microphones on, we're still going to be talking amongst ourselves. We'd love you all to be hanging out with us too.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Thanks for watching.
Appreciate y'all. Have a great day. Peace. God bless.